gonna pause it for now.
Hi, good evening.
So, Mark. I guess we can start because there's only two of us. Sure. Alright, so good evening. I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 6:30. We'll do the first thing with the agenda is the welcome and introduction. My name is Ramdad Singh. I am the chair of the youth committee. Cesar, you wanna introduce yourself?
Howdy, my name is Cesar and I am the vice chair of the youth committee.
I just saw Karen. Hi, Senator Jackson, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Robert Jackson, New York State Senator, 31st Senatorial District, which includes part of Community Board 8 in Washington Heights, Inwood, Marble Hill, in the Northwest Bronx, about 339,000 people that I represent. This is my 7th year.
Karen, do you wanna go next? Just a quick introduction.
Hi, Senator Jackson. I am Karen Walker. I don't know if my video is on. My video isn't on.
No.
I am a member of the Youth Committee of Community Board 8. I'm an attorney by training. I have been a senior advisor in President Obama's administration, deputy commissioner and general counsel at the Office of Children and Family Services. I think I met you with Yvonne at, it used to be called 159th Street. What was the
Block
name?
Association,
Yes. I think I met you there.
and it's now called CLOT, Community League of the Heights.
That's right, Community League of the Heights, that's right. And I was then chief of staff at HPD.
Okay,
Yes.
that's some
And
high-level
so-
positions then.
Yes, and so my am a adjunct professor at Fordham Law School. My work has been around children and families and community throughout my career. And so it is a pleasure to have you with us tonight, although I'm not with my fellow committee members. I'm so honored for you to visit us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank
And
you,
please feel
Karen.
free to come back anytime you'd like. Just let Ramdad, our chair, know, and I'm sure we'll be able to make a spot for you on the agenda.
Thank you.
I'll move on to Sylvia. Do you wanna do a quick introduction?
I'm a member of Community Board 8. I chair the Education Committee, and I'm here to learn what's going on in the Youth Committee.
That's a good thing, willing to learn, right?
Glad to have you, Sylvia. Arisbel, just a quick introduction and the organization you're part of.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Arisbel and I work for Literacy Inc. And I think I've met with you before. And thank you, Mr. Robert Jackson, for always supporting our organization. So Literacy Inc. is a nonprofit organization that works in the Kingsbridge community and Fordham to empower parents through workshops and programs to emphasize early literacy for parents of children 0 to 5. So we do it through workshops and programming in both communities. We like to partner with the community to work for the community. So we have partnerships with the Botanical Garden, the Bronx Zoo, to show parents that reading can be fun.
Excellent.
Thank you.
That's
In fact,
great.
I was reading to one of my grandchildren last night. They live in New Jersey, and so he was reading a book about Nelson Mandela, and growing up in South Africa. And I read about 3 or 4 pages of that for him. He's in the, I think, 2nd grade. So it was good though.
Amazing. Yeah, we're more on the prevention side. We work with children 0 to 5, so they're ready to start school because you know the rates in the Bronx, especially kids are not reading on the reading level they should be. So we're trying to start early so when they start pre-K and 3K, they're ready with their phonological and phonemic awareness.
That's great. Thank you.
Alexander Betancourt, do you just want to introduce yourself and say which organization or office you're part of?
He's muted.
Yeah, we're trying to mute. I'll move on. Joanna, do you want to do a quick introduction to say what organization and office you work for?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I am Joanna Garcia, and I am Chief of Staff to State Senator Robert Jackson.
All right. Thank you all so much for being here. As was mentioned, I'm Ram Singh. I'm the chair of the youth committee. And my report today is just gonna be very short since we have a jam-packed agenda. Just a quick reminder, summarizing deadline for summer program through New York City Public Schools. The deadline is March 28th. And summer youth employment program, the application is closing tomorrow. So if you haven't had a chance, if you know youth that would like to benefit from a summer job, 14 to 24, please make sure to have them apply. And summarizing is for grades K through 8th grade. All right. So that's it for the chair's report. Very short and simple since we have a jam-packed agenda. And I skipped the minutes. We're gonna table the minutes for December 16th and February 6th. We'll table it for April's meeting. Karen, even though you're on Zoom, you don't count for quorum tonight. Unfortunately, so we'll table it for the April meeting.
Okay, okay.
And next on our agenda, I want to bring up Senator Robert Jackson, just to talk about Senate Bill 134, Assembly Bill 118, also known as Solutions, Not Suspensions. All right, Robert Jackson, the floor is yours, Senator Jackson.
Well, thank you. And I work from a team approach, and that's why Joanna Garcia is here with me. I'm in Albany right now. So I said good evening to all of you, and I'm proud to be the state senator that sponsors Solutions Not Suspensions, which is Senate Bill number S 134, and Assemblymember Szilard co-sponsors the bill in the New York State Assembly. And I'm here today to ask for the support of Bronx Community Board 8 in passing a resolution in favor of this bill, which will reform school discipline policies, ensure all students, especially Black, Latino, and students with disabilities, are treated fairly and given the opportunity to succeed. I'm now going to turn it over to Joanna Garcia, my Chief of Staff, who has been working closely with this bill. And the relationship, Joanna and I, she joined me when I was in the city council many years ago, and we have continued our professional relationship all the way up to today, as far as dealing with the state and the issues and concerns that impact the constituents of the 31st Senatorial District. So with that, we're going to show a slide, Joanna. Let me turn it over to you.
Let me make you a co-host.
Oh,
so
actually make Dario co-host because he's gonna do the
Oh,
slide.
Dario is here too. I didn't know. Hey, Dario, how you doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Dario, you should be able to share now. The person on the iPad, can you just let us know your name so you can be reflected in the minutes?
Sure thing, Osvaldo Jimenez. I'll write my name on it.
Okay.
All right, Joanna, sorry, go ahead.
No
You can-
problem.
yours.
So as you heard, we're here to present on school solutions, not suspensions. And we are asking for a resolution from CB8, and we plan to go to different youth and education committees around Senate District 31. Daria, we can go to the next first slide. I'd appreciate it. Thanks. So this is an education bill that will reduce the over reliance on suspensions and disciplinary practices for students. And majorly the issue is that right now there are too many students that are being pushed out of the classroom instead of being supported. In 2021, 2022, Black students were suspended nearly 4 times more than white students, and Latino students were suspended at a 76% more higher rate than their white peers. Suspensions should be a last resort, and that is what the bill calls for, that it be used as a very last resort. Unfortunately, they are often used as a first response, which leads to learning loss, lower graduation rates, and higher juvenile justice involvement. These practices don't just hurt individual students, they harm entire families and communities, including right here in Community District 8. And if you look at the slide, you'll see that there's been a total loss of about 686,686 days of school year cumulatively, and this statistic is statewide. Next. So student perspectives. The coalition involves many students, and we even had a hearing about 2 years ago, and many students testified. And you had one student say that one mistake like this should not take away and take advantage of my education, my social life, and who I am, but it did, and it has impacted me. By the time I could go back to school, I didn't even want to. I didn't talk to my friends. I didn't understand anything being taught. I didn't want to talk to the counselors, and I didn't want to be in the building. I've lost encouragement. I've lost my sense of stability, and I've lost me through all of this. And another student, attending Brother Sister So, said, there were times when I would wake up from the sound of me gasping air. I wasn't sure if punishment for the text was my illness. I wasn't sure what was the point of my suspension. So this bill is to make sure that students do have a sense of accountability for any inappropriate behavior. But what we started seeing, and we've heard over and over again through different testimony, that it just creates more chaos in students' lives. It makes them feel a great more deal out of sync with their school communities, and it just increases and contributes to their anxiety about school. So, the solution. Sorry, just lost. Okay, so what does the bill do? The bill amends basically the New York State School Conduct Code, and it makes suspensions a last resort, as I mentioned. It includes the usage of restorative practices such as peer-to-peer mediation, counseling, and parent conferences. It reduces the maximum length of a suspension of 180 days. That's a whole year. And we've actually spoken to students. I mean, there was a elementary school age child who had been suspended nearly a year. And it clearly was a student that needed different kinds of interventions, and who had just lost his mother and is being raised by his grandmother, who's struggling, just not economically, but to this new life of being responsible for her grandchild, as well as the loss of her daughter. And as well, the bill aims to require charter schools to follow state education laws on student behavior and school discipline. Right now, charter schools apply disciplinary codes very differently to the rest of the state, and not in a positive way. There isn't the same kind of due process that public schools are mandated to follow. It requires the students who are suspended receive academic instruction and the opportunity to earn credit, complete assignments, and take exams. All too often, because it's not mandatory, we heard that students were suspended and they're supposed to get some kind of academic instruction while they're on suspension, but that doesn't happen, which means students are falling further behind. They're not able to earn credit, and they miss out on exams that are due, and that are part of their grading. It also acts as to limit suspensions for children in the ages of pre-K through third grade to only the most serious behavior. We found it very egregious, so many examples of our youngest children in the school education system being suspended for small infractions, when really they're just being a kid. And it also prohibits suspensions for minor infractions, such as tardiness, dress code violations, or insubordination.
Joanna, do you want to do questions as you go, or do you want to do it after?
It's not a long slide. It's not a long presentation.
Okay,
It-
so we can do it at the end, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant to ask that at the beginning.
Oh, no problem.
My apologies.
So why does this bill matter? S134. It allows students the opportunity to be held accountable, learn from their mistakes, and limit loss of learning instruction. That's the basic thing, as well as it provides age-appropriate responses and measures to students' inappropriate behavior that are effective, that are holistic, and trauma-informed. And this is especially important after we saw the mental health crisis brought on by the pandemic, well, highlighted by the pandemic, exacerbated by the pandemic. And right now we know that we have so many students that are feeling insecure because of their immigration status. So why are we here? Why are we asking community boards for their help? We know that you play a pivotal role in the implementation of bills like solutions, not suspensions, and that you just by sheer of who you are, you foster collaboration among schools, families, and local organizations. So we are asking school boards to pass a resolution calling on the Senate and the Assembly to pass Bill S134, A118. This is a bill that's aimed at solution and restorative-based disciplinary actions for students. And lastly, you should see that we have a very broad coalition. We couldn't fit everyone on because then it would have been way too tiny for you to see. But I mean, it's from Advocates for Children, AQE, and these are organizations not only in New York City, we have organizations in Nassau County and Westchester and Rochester. The NAACP is part of this coalition. The New York Civil Liberties Union, Bronx Defenders is part of this coalition, and there are many more that we couldn't include. And um, every month we're being approached by groups who say that they want to be part of this coalition. So I'll end there. There's more information, but I'm happy to take questions now.
I have a question, if
Go
nobody
ahead,
else
Karen.
wants to go first. And so I was just about to ask you who, you talked about testimony around this bill, and I wanted to ask you who was part of the coalition, and you mentioned some of the folks, particularly Advocates for Children, are Legal Aid and Lawyers for Children. I was a former attorney, a legal services attorney at Lawyers for Children. Are they part of that coalition as well?
Legal Aid is, I have to check for lawyers, attorney, but Legal Aid Society is definitely one of the orgs and very, very, very much involved. And when we think about who's in the coalition, it's not just students, it's teachers, educators, lawyers who specialize in mediation and other community service providers.
Mhm. And who is helping to inform, oh my goodness. Who's helping to inform? I'm sorry, a pop-up just came on my computer, so forgive me.
Those are
Who's
distracting.
helping to inform the age-appropriate things that the bill is including? Who's helped to inform that?
That would be the State Department of Education. The State Department of Education about 3 years ago, and it was before we had our hearing, had a statewide task force to examine to examine the school disciplinary code across the state, and it brought in all kinds of stakeholders, and their recommendations lined up perfectly with this bill. So they would be part of informing what that looks like. They'll probably also pitch it a little bit more to the local school districts. There was something else. Oh, and what we did differently this year is that our office advocated for $5 million in the state budget to go towards providing professional development to teachers and educators, because we know that restorative practices and just conflict resolution and supporting social emotional mandates looks different to everyone, and we wanted to make sure that everyone in the school community was comfortable implementing and supporting those tenets.
Thank you.
I have two questions. So as you know, I've taught in both District 10 and District 6. District 6 being in Washington Heights. District 10, I taught at a school here in Riverdale. And is there any language in the bill that looks to rectify discrepancies between individual school districts implementing these practices differently?
I think it will codify it, and that's a very good question, Ramdat, because what we see from the state point of view is that New York City is a bit further ahead than the rest of the state. New York City isn't afraid of using the word, for example, restorative practices. There are some school districts that are a little bit like, what does that mean? They think that, that means woke politics, and we're just talking about supporting children in terms of their social emotional and looking at really at the heart of what's in the root of that behavior, and kind of going backwards to suspension versus suspension first. This bill would definitely help standardize, and I use that word carefully because we want to make sure that we respect that schools are individual communities as students are, but it helps standardize what is in that toolkit to apply to support appropriate behavior, because it is about redirecting and asking students, and this also actually leads to a question of making an assessment. Well, the school doesn't have the capacity, and this is why then we turn to, instead of the Band-Aid that's very ineffective of suspensions, we turn to, is the classroom too large? Do you have enough social workers? Do you have enough counselors? Do you have enough individuals that have the tools and the skill set to support these students?
I'm sorry, Ramdad, are you finished?
I have just one more question.
Okay. I have
Not,
one.
so thanks, Joanna. The reason why I asked was because the school here in 141, I definitely saw a discrepancy between the suspension rate between my high school in Washington Heights versus my high school here in Riverdale, and that's why I wanted to ask that. You did say that the bill is gonna also require charter schools. What types of accountability measures will be put into place to make sure that charter schools, whether it be private or public charters, are adhering to these types of recommendations?
By sheer virtue of including the language charter schools, then charter schools couldn't escape the fact that, charter schools, they accept public funding, especially when it comes to, say, meals or students with IEPs. They use a lot of the infrastructure, the public infrastructure that is TWEED, the Department of Education. So by actually including language that this applies to charter schools, it means that they are not excluded from applying the amendment to the school conduct code.
All right, thank you. Karen, can I go to Cesar and then I'll come back to you?
Absolutely.
Howdy, y'all. So, I'm gonna start with this. It's not my organization, it is one of the organizations
Yes.
that is on this list, with Sisters and Brothers United being the youth arm of Northeast Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition. And in your statement, Joanna, of essentially like looking at classroom sizes and more charters, more more social workers. Does this bill have a language that also includes like funding for that? Because if we look at a number of schools, especially looking at some of the schools in District 10, I think one of the schools literally has like 10 officers to 0 guidance counselors, social workers. So if we're trying to look at this and trying to look at like holistic and restorative justice, but there's no one at the school and there's no funding for it, it's like, where's the teeth?
Exactly. So, this bill alone doesn't do that, Assessor, because there's a separate bill for that, actually. This bill would change the law, so it would force school districts rather to say, well, how do we do this? And then be able to say, well, now that this is law, we have to prioritize dollars towards this to be able to do this because we don't have the capacity. But I'm glad you brought it up because Senator Jackson does carry a social worker ratio bill, so that is prioritized as well. We're just trying to do all the things at the same time. And as I mentioned, the separate $5 million towards professional development, which signals that this needs to be prioritized in regards to how we support students and their social, emotional, and disciplinary practices in schools.
Do you know the number for that, or do you have the number for that bill?
I wish I wish I was that good, but I will follow up in an email and send you the information for the social work bill, which we definitely want support for. And as you know, the senator fought for reducing class size, and in the current state budget that we are negotiating, there was additional funding put towards school districts, and that's also to make sure that New York City doesn't have an excuse not to reduce class size.
Karen, you had a question?
Well, Ramdot asked a variation of the question I was going to ask about funding. And so I just wanted to amplify what Ramdot was, I mean, not Ramdot, Cesar was saying, and Ramdot, about the importance of resources to support the implementation of this bill. And I think it goes beyond social workers. And I'm ecstatic to hear that the senator has the social work bill and would look forward to hearing from you all about that bill. But there are other resources and professionals that I think could be supportive, because you talked about getting to the root cause of what's causing behavior in the young people and addressing that behavior in age-appropriate ways. And so in the example that you spoke about, you talked about a young person who was had grief issues. And so is there going to be support for grief counselors who may or may not be social workers, for example? Because grief manifests itself in so many ways, not only in children, but in all folks.
Yes.
Acting out, for children is a way of crying for help.
I think that this bill, when passed, will raise the standard of care and approach, and make sure that the adults actually have conversations with each other. That's why there are so many service providers that are part of the coalition, and it changes the conversation of how we're allocating our public dollars. So definitely, we get to pass this bill and make sure that the governor puts it into law, then it makes it so much easier as a springboard to, okay, so where are we allocating our dollars?
Yes. And so my follow-up question, I don't want to dominate the, question and answer session, but my follow-up question is, how can we collectively as the youth committee be involved with the coalition, or individually be involved with the coalition? And also, did you give us your contact information?
I will give it to you happily.
Okay,
With the first question, when I send the email that includes the bill number for the social work bill, I will
mhm,
also include a link of how you can join the coalition and get more information.
mhm.
It's simply called the School Solutions Not Suspensions Coalition. And they meet with our office weekly, and they're very active everywhere. And then my email is pretty simple. It's my first name, Joanna, JOHANNA. I was about to give you my personal at senatorjackson.com.
Okay,
I'll put it in the, can I put it in the chat? No. So
Karen,
it's
I'll make sure to text it to you.
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, we don't have a chat function on our
okay,
board.
no problem.
You said
but-
senatorjackson.com, okay.
Joanna with an H, two N's at senatorjackson.com.
I have one question, just one more, and then I'll open it up to folks as well.
I
Other
got
folks.
disconnected for a minute. But I'll wait for Ramdot to send it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, don't worry.
Okay,
I remember last year, when this bill was being discussed and talked about, I'm in favor of the bill. I see discrepancies between two school districts that I worked in. And I know there's definitely school districts across districts in New York City. And that was just my experience from working in two separate school districts. But I remember last year when this bill was being discussed and talked about, proponents were saying that this bill would put school safety agents or SSAs out of work. What do you say to or how do you message this to the proponents who say that this will eliminate SSA jobs?
First, I would say that it's a sad commentary on our school system that the safety agents, I want to emphasize that the first word of their title is safety, is a mask for policing. And that anything that moves towards promoting social emotional development and care and also accountability, because this is about making sure students also are accountable to themselves and each other, would mean the elimination of those jobs. Actually, those positions, safety agents, can receive training in how to support and be part of that school community in supporting appropriate behavior in the students that they are tasked to care for and not police.
Thank you. I'll open it up to any member, Sylvia, or any members of the community that have any questions. Sylvia, you have a question?
The thing that I think it's a great thing, but I know that funding in general, when it comes to us from Albany, it might be designated for education, but very often it's put into the pot. And I wondered, and it doesn't go to education. So I wonder, does the social bill have specifics as to how the funding will be designated definitely for that program?
So this bill is not the social work bill, but separately, the social work bill only speaks that there must be ratios. We're very careful as New York State when we negotiate the budget, especially when we're talking about education, about immediately giving New York City excuses as to why not to implement and abide by the law and supporting their students. If it is a matter of funding, we then have conversations between the state and the city as to one, how is the city already allocating and spending the money that it already has to make sure it's being done appropriately? And also after that fact, what else is needed to close the gap to truly implement the spirit of the law? So those are all ongoing conversations and part of advocacy.
And
But
and with
it's
Foundation Aid also, Joanne, it's
Yes.
Foundation Aid basically has been moving towards being updated as to the needs of the students, and especially with so many new students coming into the system with so many issues and concerns and dual language and not really being at the level that they're supposed to be from where they come from, that, you know, the Foundation Aid formula is based on the city of New York, obviously in receiving foundation aid, along with the chancellor and her team, they're expected to be understanding of what the needs are in the school districts and spend the money appropriately, in my opinion.
I
Yes.
would hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
thank
hope
you.
And that's an important point. For example, right now, as I mentioned earlier, we're negotiating the state budget. And one of the things that we're fighting for very strongly in favor for New York City is that the weight of students in temporary housing increases so that it becomes a mechanism for getting more dollars to these schools. We know that that's a huge issue. So students experiencing food or homeless insecurity or in temporary housing, students who have special needs. So we are looking at deepening the weights. So when the formula gets activated to get funding to our schools, it actually results in more funding for high need schools.
I'm sorry, what's the last word you said for what kind of schools?
High need schools.
High
Schools
need
with high
schools.
needs. Mhm.
I think we have time for about 2 more questions if anybody has.
We
I'm
hope
a
that,
teacher. I have really good wait time, so.
but Ramdad, we hope that coming here and making this presentation, that CB8 will do a resolution and Joanna, we can make sure that CB8 is part of the coalition that's working to make sure that this comes about in this year and not next year.
Right.
Uh,
Yep.
And
Senator, I have a
when are the
question.
meetings? I'm sorry, what time are the meetings?
The coalition, once you sign up, part of the coalition, because the coalition works independent from us,
Mhm.
we'll let you know when those meetings are. And they meet and strategize and talk about different actions locally and in Albany.
When is the deadline for you would like this resolution by? Or when do you,
Ideally, so because we're in the midst of the budget, which is due April 1st, ideally shortly after the beginning of April, because after April 1st, we're going to be focusing much, much more intensely on bills like these so that we can get it passed before session ends, and session ends the first week of June. But in between April and the beginning of June, it's pretty intense in making sure that both the Senate and the Assembly understand that constituents on the ground want this bill passed.
the only reason I was asking is, we meet the third,
Mm,
Monday of every month, so our next meeting won't be until towards the end of April.
that's fine.
So that's all I was asking.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, yeah, Steve.
So what challenges, like the challenges that y'all see in this bill, in these bills getting passed?
What are the challenges to this bill getting passed? We need to continue, and we're progressing in our conversations. We need to continue having conversations with the teachers' unions, because we have heard from educators that especially because they feel they are limited in terms of resources, in overcrowded classrooms, and also not everyone applies restorative practices the same way. That there aren't, like who do they pivot to in terms of mental health support and buy-in school-wide, that they are fearful that this bill is actually saying you could never, ever use suspensions. And so we continue to have conversations, which is why we are asking for 5 million for professional development. That's specifically for the teachers. We're continuing to have conversations about, again, there's federal law that says that if a student does something X, Y, and Z, absolutely, like there's no question about it. They are suspended just for the sake of the safety of the school community and themselves. But what does it look like, and how do we support teachers so they're comfortable in a school environment where this isn't their first tool in their toolbox? So that's pretty much, I wouldn't say a challenge. It's a little bit of what's creating a bit of molasses, and that will be part of our negotiations as we move forward in finalizing this bill's passage.
Just one last question. So you started with, there's like school districts that overly suspend, right?
Mhm.
Or, so I was wondering if the bill, or is this up to implementation once it passes? Looking at the school districts or schools specifically, doing an analysis of that and seeing which schools and districts overly suspend. And if that analysis is done, will those school districts or schools get additional support? Or is that something that will be left up to the districts themselves?
That sounds like something that would be more internal policy.
Okay.
We know that New York City, and actually this is due to Senator Jackson's work when he was in the city council. When he was in the city council, he passed the bill, the Students' Rights Bill, and that applied only to New York City. And what it did is that it forced New York City, it's not the Students' Right Bill, it's the Student Reporting Bill. I'll get the actual name of it. It
The
forced New,
Student Bill of Rights, right?
I think so. So what it
I
did is
was a
that,
student, a high school
yeah,
student when the bill passed, and I remember
right.
getting the little pamphlet.
Right. So it forced New York City to actually report on who they were suspending, why they were suspending, and for how long. And based on that data, it actually allowed advocates and lawyers and community-based organizations to point to the discriminatory practices of these of their disciplinary code. We saw a higher rate of Black and Latino students. We saw a higher rate of students with special needs. And we also saw that it wasn't solving anything. And that is why New York City is a little bit ahead of the curve compared to other school districts in the rest of New York State, because there is a reporting, which speaks to, many times people think that a reporting bill is a really nothing bill, but actually a reporting bill forces and sheds light on what's going on and provides a very strong foundation for advocating for stronger legislation.
Just one last question about
Karen, you'll have the last question.
okay, thank you. About the reporting bill. So who has the repository of that information? And do you work with the public advocate around these issues in New York City?
So that bill, I believe, asked that it be reported, I forget how often a year, I believe, to the city council, and it may be public anyway. And when I send you the bill, when I send you the email, I'll check to see exactly the language of what is now law.
Mhm.
And with the public advocate actually gave incredibly moving testimony about his own experience when we had the hearing. And all the testimony, it's a great deal of testimony. All the testimony is also publicly available if anyone wanted to like take the time and read through the testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you
The
so
presentation
much.
was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much for this presentation. Joanna or Dario, can you all send this presentation to the board office or to
Yeah.
my email?
Yeah.
That way we can include it in the minutes that
Sure.
we send out to folks.
Sure.
Senator Jackson, any last words?
Well, thank you for Community Board 8 members being interested in this, and the outcome will be better for our children in order to get the decent education they rightfully deserve in New York City and New York State. That's the most important thing. It's for their good and the good of making sure that we're educating students and dealing with the issues and concerns that they have as at home and in school.
Thank you, Senator Jackson, and thank you to your staff, Joanna and Dario. They're always great. And I'm so happy that you represent me in the 31st senatorial district.
Same.
But thank you so much. Terry, can you unshare the screen? Thanks.
Thank you for having us.
No, thank you so much, Joanna, for answering all the questions that we've had. We will draft the resolution. Bring it to our next committee meeting. If it passes, it will then go to the full board. And then the full board will then get to vote whether or not they wanna adopt the resolution. Which the next full board meeting will be in May. Because our committee is one of the last ones that meet in the month. And our full board meeting is the second Tuesday of the month.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
I'll provide you with additional statistics to support your resolution.
That will be great, and I'll connect with you just for some more information.
Okay.
That we could probably include in the resolution.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Senator Jackson.
Thank
you so
you.
much, Joanna and Dario.
Have a good-
It was such a pleasure.
Likewise.
Good night.
Good night.
So next on our agenda is, we're supposed to have a presentation by DYCD. And about different community programs in District 8. But I didn't see them join today, but I'll follow up and.
I am here.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
So I'll turn it
I was
over
trying,
to
I was trying to get
Alexander.
meeting access on the West Side Highway was near impossible, but
Oh, I'm so sorry, I had
It's
somebody
okay.
else's name.
it's okay. I'm in a stable location now.
Thank you, I'll turn it over to Alexander, thank you so much for.
It's a pleasure to speak to all of you. I'm here representing the New York City Department of Youth and Community Development. As you know, it is the one city agency that is charged with primary mission, youth, families in communities across the city of New York. We have a very big footprint. We have representative programming in almost every single district of the city for all populations within those districts, from school-age children to high school-age children to middle school children, seniors, and the like. Right now, we have benefited from increases to our budget through the municipal budget process to the tune of we're at about $1 billion, which is the first time in the history of our agency that we ever hit that watermark. As you know, we are a relatively new agency when you compare who we are versus the Human Resource Administration or ACS. DYCD was basically the new kid on the block some 35 years ago. We have grown by leaps and bounds over the course of the last 4 years. Much of our work is really concentrated in partnership with New York City schools and many of the freestanding centers that we fund across the city in every single district. Let me give you a case in point and an example of what our work looks like in Community District 8. A sense of who the agencies are. We are currently working with Mashalou Montefiore, the Neighborhood Self-Help Project, Research Foundation of CUNY, Good Shepherd Services, the Urban Youth Alliance, MVP programs, Good Shepherd Services, Child Development Center of Montefiore, Children in Science Workshops, Kingsbridge Community Center, and the list is fairly exhaustive. But I think what the primary focus of the work that we do is to the degree possible, we like to create relationships and partnerships between local organizations that have affinity for the neighborhoods that they are working in or are based in the communities that they work in, thus enhancing the possibilities of developing partnerships with schools that extend beyond the doors of the school and oftentimes extend beyond the resources that are allocated in contracts. Those are the kinds of relationships that get built that sustain families through the difficulties of negotiating schools that can sometimes be contentious, schools that can sometimes be challenging if parents aren't capable of working the way that they want to work with their kids because of other conditions that may exist in the home. We become the bridge between the child, the parent, and the school more often than not. The providers are basically there 5 to 6 days a week. Most of our programming happens during the course on an after-school basis and on weekends. As you also know, we are the primary engine for summer youth employment and for Success Rising. Hello? Hello? Did I
Hi,
lose?
we
Oh,
can
we
still
can hear
hear
you.
you.
Okay, we're the primary engines behind a lot of the summer youth employment program, which we have managed to grow because of the good stewardship of both the city council that has become deeply invested in this initiative, the mayor's leadership, and the leadership of the corporate community that has come forth and made investments in summer youth employment. As you know, that's a long-standing program. I mean, it dates back to the late 60s. I remember being a summer youth employment worker back then, and it's full evolution for me now. The primary policy issues that we face have to do with the fact that we do not control conditions in classrooms. We do not deal with issues that relate to the quality of instruction and the quality of learning. We are basically there to deal with the social and emotional needs of young people. To the degree that we can work with school-based staff in creating conditions that allow those students to succeed is what our point of entry is. But the relationships that we create with families extend well beyond those doors. Staffing in many of our programs is reflective of the communities that we serve. We are aware of the issues that many of the parents bring into the school system, including some of the fear and some of the isolation that has to do with school contact, first experience as newly arrived migrant communities to the city. Let me give you a case in point. The work of Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, the work of Mashalou Montefiore, Children's Arts and Science Workshop, where many of our kids are getting enrichment services having to do with hardcore academic subjects that relate to math, science, and enhanced instruction and enhanced homework assistance from the staff of many of our neighborhood-based providers. Right now, I would say that we are probably present in at least 20 to 30 schools within the district. We're probably doing budget allocations of about 14 million, I would say probably in the neighborhood of 14 to 17 million dollars for the district. And that is all part of the budgetary process, both with the city, that we will become engaged in the coming weeks, and the process of negotiations with DYCD and every single community board relative to the budget process. As you know, you're going through your new needs process now. More often than not, when we meet in front of OMB, it's usually new needs that relate to physical space. And I want to share with you, if you have an opportunity to make a pitch for programming and service dollars, that's something that we might be able to be helpful with. But on capital development projects, we don't really have capital development funding. And that is the case with more often than not when it comes up in that OMB budget process. We will be sitting with every single district and OMB in the coming months to negotiate out what the plan is going to be at each CB level for the interactions between our agency, the City of New York, and your community board. Any specific questions that you might have?
Thank you so much, Alexander, for presenting and just talking about like all the services that DYC provides throughout Community Board District 8. I just want to open it up to questions.
What I also wanted to share with you, pardon me, just before you
Go ahead.
I'm going to provide you with a digest of every single partnership that we have in the district and the funding allocation levels, who the schools are, who the partner agencies are. We're encouraging all of our boards to bring those organizations to the table and have a conversation because it becomes an eye opener. It's looking at the school through a different lens, and it's looking at what impedes young children from having academic success, the same way it opens our eyes to where those successes are happening and how we can continue to invest and maximize investments where necessary. But they become very critical discussions because they're not discussions that you would ordinarily have with school administrators who could give you the facet of interactions and relationships inside of the school the way community-based agencies can. And to a large degree, they're heroes there, but they're often not seen and forgotten. They need to know that they are valued in local communities. And while they get that from the families that they serve, they want to have a bigger audience. They want to have a bigger audience to talk about the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis, particularly now with the kind of environment that we're dealing with within this country. There are some challenges there that are unique to the parents that we serve.
Karen, you had a question?
Yeah, I had a question. Thank you so much for that presentation. That was really informative. And
Wonderful.
I so appreciate you mentioning the community organizations, because as you said, they are our unsung heroes. And
Absolutely.
so I had a question about your role in early education for preschool age children. And what kind of services do you provide? How do you work with that population?
We don't. We
Okay.
don't work with preschool or with any children that are not school ready, okay, for the public or private educational system. The preschool issues, I mean, we have very good interactions with ACS. We have good interactions with the Board of Education's programs for early childhood, and we're able to be supportive in getting the bridge built on the other sides when kids begin to come out of that pipeline and into the public ed system and into, you know, the community schools network. And that's across the majority of districts in the city. The formal articulation that we have happens as a result of leadership that meets at the children's cabinet level, you know, within City Hall.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Did you have any?
No, I'm very familiar with DYCD.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with DYCD. I have, you know, a lot of DYCD programs in my school. And I agree.
What school are you at?
I'm in the George Washington campus in Washington
Oh, you're in
Heights.
G-Dub.
G-Dubs, yeah.
You know
So
how
we
far
have
back?
a
You know
lot
how
of
far
our
back I
seniors.
go with G-Dub? Do you remember a ball player named Manny Ramirez who used to play for the Boston Red Sox?
Yep.
Manny Ramirez was a G-Dub graduate when I was working with kids there.
So yeah, we do have we have many CBO partners that are DYCD funded. And you know, we get to hear all the different stories. As a teacher, I get to hear things that I may not know or understand from our partners. And you know, that partnership between school and DYCD and their partners are a key to make sure that we
I
are.
mean, some of the organizations that we were able to get into G-Dub back then, and it was unheard of. We were able to get Alianza Dominicana in there. We were able to get Association of Progressive Dominicans there. We were able to build bridges in G-Dub that had no connection to the outside community back then. I'm talking 20, 30 years ago now. But I know that those relationships still hold and that they've taken that they're valued by the school and valued by parents.
And,
I was gonna say my experience is on the other side, as I used to work for Kingsford Heights Community Center.
AHCC, another one of our funded programs.
Yep, I've worked with some of the homework help as well, but also the YLC, SYP. So for me, it's like familiar with a lot of the programs.
How was your experience there? How do you qualify that in terms of your own relative experiences? Good experience for you?
Yeah, so I was a staff member asterisk, I was a staffer at the time, so I was be working with the YLC. And given my experiences when I ran like food pantry, volunteers.
Right.
And also a lot of students would just come to me to be like, hey, it's like, this is hard maths, can you help us with this?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, as you're saying, it's like, that's that utter push of like, look, sometimes you just need addition.
You know, we can't put enough caring adults and enough caring role models inside the city schools for our young people. I mean, you know, we have to give them every opportunity that every other child gets in better resourced and better financed school systems, okay? We owe that to them. That's part of what our job has to be.
Amen to that.
and you did mention that you go over you did make a recommendation about our expense and requests. So this committee specifically, we only have expense requests, we don't have capital.
No
Requests.
capital requests, okay.
No, but like we've received back our agency, notes about the 3 requests that we had. And the request that we get from OMB is, they support it, but, they support the request, but they can't fund it.
Right.
Or they're saying like, go see our city council member.
No, I understand, yeah.
So one of our requests last year was increase in SYEP. That was in response to the threat of SYEP about to get cut.
Right.
So
But your
we had
numbers were
included
pretty
that.
robust for the summer,
Yeah,
right?
no, our community board and our office sends it out and make sure people are applying. And I send it out to.
You know, we extended the deadline to Friday of this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. So one of them was on SYEP, the next one was on mental health programming.
Right.
And the third one was on programming to stop hate. All types of hate.
Right.
So those 3, the committee definitely.
Have you ever talked to any of the providers about programming options that they may be able to help you with outside of relationships with DYCD?
We have.
Because Montefiore has a pretty robust mental health based approach.
Right.
Right. And those should be natural relationships that get built and that we capitalize on while they're at the table.
Right. No, I was an MMCC kid.
Okay.
I was an MMCC
I'm preaching
kid,
to the
so.
converted, okay? Okay.
So I think this committee definitely wants to see SYEP continuously funded.
And you've got the ladders for leaders component this year in the district. Well, right.
And I know the committee is looking at language about for another expense request about college and career discovery programming.
Right.
So increasing those. And there was one more which we will get to clean out and formulate a little more.
Have you been over to Clinton High School to look at some of the work that's being done over there?
I know the work that Clinton is doing really well.
All right.
Can you just for folks on the call, can you just briefly talk about the work that Clinton is doing?
Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Clinton has a number of good partnerships with Good Shepherd. And Good Shepherd Services happens to have a very strong background in the delivery of mental health and clinical services. So there have been a series of issues that related to the need for interventions past the standard tried and true. Let me work with you in counseling. There is some exploration of doing family-based therapeutic modalities outside of those programs. So I think it might be worth the conversation with Good Shepherd based on the Clinton High School work that they're doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any other questions? Sylvia, Osvaldi, Arisbel, no, any questions? All right, Mr. Bencourt, it was a pleasure, thank you so
Please,
much.
Alex, let's not be so formal, all right?
Alex, thank you so much for presenting. We
Thank
have your
you.
contact information.
It was a pleasure, and
Um,
thank you to all members of the panel. It was a very
Thank
informative
you so
meeting.
much.
Thank
And
you
we're-
for coming.
You all have a nice evening, and I'm here whenever you need.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, and I have your contact information now too, so anything we need, the committee, I can definitely reach out.
I will get your report to you tomorrow, showing you everything that's going on in the district.
That would be great.
Perfect.
All right?
Thank
You
you
all
so
so much, and have a great evening.
Good night,
too.
good night.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So the next item on our agenda is, we have the New York Yankees 2025 Youth Leadership Award. Karen, you should have received it in your email.
Yeah, I
From
see.
Freddie. So every year, every community board in the Bronx gets to nominate or put in some recommendations to the New York Yankees to recognize 5 youth that have shown leadership skills and so on and so forth. So essentially, who can apply? High school seniors graduating. They must reside in Community Board 8 or perform community service in Community Board 8 and must have performed 50 hours of community service. The deadline to apply was last Friday for our community board, just because of where our youth committee meeting fell. And we have a deadline to send these nominees over to the Yankee Leadership Committee. And so the Youth Leadership Award will provide $750 stipend to youth leaders nominated by our Community Board 8. And in addition, they would be recognized on field during a pregame ceremony at Yankee Stadium in 2025 for Bronx Community Board Days. So we have 6 nominees, or 6 applicants, I mean, and we have to pick, out of the 6, have to pick 5. So one of these nominees or applicants won't make it to our recommendation to the Yankee Leadership Council. So we have Amani Dow, Bruce Sanchez, Diary Garcia Baez, Janae Schuler, and Kolja Bonzi, and Celine Najoya. So out of these 6, we have to pick 5. I guess we can go down the list of the application, and just look through them and see whether or not this might be a candidate that we may move to be submitted. So the first one, wait, Karen, any questions before I begin?
Mm-mm,
Okay.
no,
Alright, so the first one is Amani. Does live here in Kingsbridge Heights. And Amani has demonstrated to be a wonderful youth leader and girl empowerment figure in our community. Since age 5, she's been an ice hockey player. since middle and now throughout high school has exemplified that girls can do anything. As an honor scholar, avid actress in our neighborhood. As an honor scholar, avid actress in our neighborhood performing arts department, and as a youth skating coach for the past 6 years. Recently, Imani inspired her ice hockey league to create their first ever girls hockey division in over 39 years. Because of her determination, she was featured in the news outlets on YouTube, in NHL's media twice, and most recently interviewed on Today's Show for her resilience. Imani is a true testimony that children from our district are truly amazing. So that was the application, the nomination form. If we flip through her resume, one part of the application for folks on here was they had to submit a resume as well as part of the application packet. She does have, Imani does have Go Sports USA as a coach. And attends KIPP NYC College Prep High School. Also went there for middle school and has participated in hockey and Little League baseball. Any thoughts? I want to open it up to the committee members for thoughts on Imani.
I think we should, I suggest that we hear all of the young people first. Rather
Okay,
than,
sure.
because they're gonna all be impressive, on their own. But I think
Right.
that because we have to eliminate one, we're going to naturally have to compare them to one another.
Right, no, that makes sense. Thanks so much for that tip, Karen. I'll move on. I'll go to Bruce Sanchez next. Bruce Sanchez, is, the nomination came from, MMCC, the Fort Independence Cornerstone, which is
230th Street.
230th Street next to,
It's like right across from like where the Dunkin' Donuts is.
right. So they submitted a recommendation letter, plus Bruce's resume. So for Bruce, dear members of Bronx Community Board 8, throughout his involvement in the Work and Learn Grow program at MMC Fort Independence Cornerstone, Bruce Sanchez has demonstrated exceptional leadership. As an office assistant, he exhibits a strong work ethic and dedication to his role, while also having significant impact on our community at Fort Independence. Mr. Sanchez's leadership skills go beyond his professional responsibilities, as he holds pivotal roles that impact the lives of others in his community. His leadership is characterized by a combination of personal resilience, dedication to service, and an unwavering commitment to doing his best. Raised in the Bronx and born in Manhattan, Mr. Sanchez's early life was characterized by the challenges of overcoming poverty, but he has not only preserved but thrived. His high school academic journey is a testament to his resilience, as he worked hard to overcome obstacles and achieve success, ultimately laying groundwork for his future aspirations. This perseverance is a key component of his leadership style, as he uses his own experiences to inspire and empower others to pursue their goals, no matter the challenges they encounter. As our youth president and a representative for our Youth Engagement and Prevention Services Department, Mr. Sanchez is essential to the creation and execution of community initiatives aimed at resolving social and civic concerns at Fort Independence. His leadership in these roles demonstrate a profound awareness of the significance of attending to the particular needs of his peers and the larger community. Through his work, Mr. Sanchez has demonstrated remarkable initiative in recognizing problems that young people face and collaborating with others to come up with creative solutions. His leadership style is defined by his ability to motivate others, lead projects, and bring about positive change. He is in charge of planning programs that emphasize community outreach, prevention services, and youth engagement, all of which have a long-lasting effect on the Fort Independence community. His ability to unite people, forge consensus, and motivate action shows that he's capable of leading with both empathy and strategic thinking. Beyond his community service, Mr. Sanchez has demonstrated a remarkable dedication to personal development. His love of martial arts demonstrates his self-control, concentration, and commitment qualities that are essential to his leadership. His aspiration to work as a financial advisor is a reflection of his ambition and desire to keep changing the world, not only in his community, but also in the financial industry, where he aspires to assist others in achieving success and financial security. We can flip over to his resume. He is a student at the Bronx School of Law and Finance in the Kennedy campus. And has worked with MMCC for Independence Cornerstone, has volunteered at the St. Brendan's Food Pantry, and also worked in the counseling and training through the SYEP program at MMCC. He does have a lot of extracurricular activities, which he is a youth advisor for MMCC at the DeKalb Avenue location, MMCC Fort Independence Cornerstone Youth Council, Junior Varsity Kennedy Knights, and also the Dominguez Experts Martial Arts program. All right, so that was Bruce Sanchez. The next nominee is Diary Garcia Baez. I do need to make a note that this was my former student. Had her 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. But I no longer have her. And she's graduating this year in 12th grade, which is amazing. I'm really proud of her. So Diary Garcia Baez. We are proud to nominate Diary Garcia for the Yankee Award in recognition of her exceptional contributions to our after-school program. With over 200 hours of community service, she has been a dedicated mentor helping younger students and making a lasting impact on our community. Academically, Diary excels, maintaining top grades and inspiring others through her passion for learning. She also comes from a long line of alumni who have contributed to the program's legacy, continuing the values of leadership and service passed down through her family. Her leadership skills are evident as she guides and motivates younger students, setting a positive example of others. Diary embodies the spirit of the Yankee Award through her dedication, making her a deserving candidate for this honor. So Daya is a student at the Riverdale Kingsbridge Academy, RK, right here in Riverdale. She's been a RNH or Riverdale Neighborhood House intern since 2023. And she's also done 200 hours of community service. Through RNH has done more than 500 hours of community service, working with students ages 11 through 14. All right. So that was Diary. The next one is Janae Schuler. Janae Schuler is a creative, sincere, and diligent young lady. She is a senior at the Riverdale Cambridge Academy in excellent academic standing, who is in the top 5 percentile of her class with a GPA of 98.02%. In addition to Janae's outstanding academic achievements, she also is greatly involved in a variety of volunteer experiences. One of her active and consistent volunteer experience includes volunteering at the Justice for Families program, which is a national juvenile justice reform organization where she volunteers her time to help with communications at their community center and provides support in their events by planning, making outreach, and writing report documents of their outcomes. She also provides clerical assistance with walk-ins, phone calls, emails, and sharing information. So flipping over to her resume, she is a student at Riverdale Cambridge Academy, where she participates in the Right to Work Roar Club, Mission Impossible, which is a career readiness program. She also is involved in a Cooper Union Saturday program. Her volunteerism includes Public Color, Volunteer, which Public Color is an organization that helps or gives opportunities to youth to paint public murals on schools, community centers, and other places around the neighborhood. Justice for Families, and also has worked for Justice for Families in summer youth. All right, that's Janae Schuler. And we have two more. I know these are long, these recommendation letters, but thank y'all for bearing with me.
And
We have
maybe, I'm sorry, Rhonda, maybe you can just give us like a highlight. You don't have to read the whole letter, maybe not, and just,
Gotcha. Some of them were long, some of them were not.
Okay.
So we have Kojo. Kojo is a dynamic and dedicated young leader who has consistently demonstrated strong commitment to his community and personal growth. As a youth leader at Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, he actively mentors young participants, organizes events, and assists with college preparation, embodying the essence of servant leadership, service leadership. His leadership extends beyond KHCC, as he has excelled as a key player on his high school basketball team, leading them to championship victory and a standout track athlete. Kojo's ability to balance academic, athletics, and community service is a testament to his discipline and determination, recently earning him full ride scholarships to multiple colleges, including SUNY Morrisville and Baruch College. And his resume,
HCP, the youth leader and staff,
yep,
so assisting young kids with schoolwork, trips, life skills and lessons. And helping like seniors and juniors with financial aid, college tuitions, worked at Samuel, Valu at PC, assisting paralegals, phone calls for updates. Pursued Bronx High School for law and community service.
okay. So that was Kojo, and last but not least, Salim. Salim is also getting it's a nomination from KHCC. Is a junior staff member of KHCC and co-facilitator of Guide Group. He mentors his peers while taking on responsibility beyond his years. And through his technology youth apprenticeship at Accenture, he has honed problem solving and management skills. And resume wise, he is a student at Bronx High School for Law and Community Service. Was a technology youth apprentice, student intern at KHCC, and also did some volunteer work from Soil to Boil. Alright, so those are our 6 applicants. I wanna open it up to the committee members, for the initial thoughts, and then we get to pick 5 at the end.
so those,
So,
oh, I'm sorry, Cesar. Go ahead.
no, just to, again, the open transparency of Utah Diary, and worked at KHCC when Salim started with SYP there. So
Okay,
it's just open transparency of both of us have relations with 2 of the folks.
and what's the other, Salim and who else?
I knew Salim and Ramdat
Oh,
Diary.
yeah, I heard Ramdas, and I thought you said that you had relationship with 2. You're just talking about the 2 that you both have relationships with.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, no worries.
Good, Karen.
So all of the young people are incredibly impressive. And I really wish that we didn't have to, eliminate one, so to speak. Because
Right.
they all deserve an opportunity to, be considered for the Yankees award. But for me, Imani, I'm not gonna remember their names. Bruce, maybe Daria, I'm not sure of her name.
Oh, Daya,
Dahlia,
no, Diary.
Diary, okay. Kojo, and that's four. What was the fifth one's name before Salim? Those that preceded Salim, in
Danae.
my view, were really super impressive. For different reasons. Imani with the ice hockey and bringing, that to the community, I think is super important. Bruce, whoever wrote his recommendation, mentioned the challenges that he had with poverty. And not to say that I don't know anything about the other young people's backgrounds, but given that that was highlighted for Bruce, I think that that is, a key consideration. Yeah. Kojo with the balancing of the athletics and community service and academics is amazing. The young person who works for justice for families and is involved in the Cooper Union program. I especially love the work with Justice for Families. Because that's dear to my heart, having been one of the leaders of the juvenile justice system here in New York State. And the other young person, I can't think of her name right now. Oh, it's
Oh, Janae was the justice.
yeah, Janae was
Um,
the justice. So those are my picks.
Okay,
Yeah.
Stacey.
Yeah. I do wanna say. Bruce is the only one that we actually heard the entire letter for.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have the full letters of recommendations for Kojo and Salim as well, the other two. We just have like the
Yeah.
snippets, but it is. Like they are long.
Somehow, Cesar, I can't hear you. Like you keep dying out at the end, so I can't fully hear what you're saying.
Yeah, no, the owl is not this one that's close to us.
Okay. But I heard you say that we heard the full.
Yeah, Bruce is the
letter,
only one that we actually heard the full letter of recommendation for. I
but
will also add that, everyone else we have.
Yeah, so for Kojo and Celine, KCC did submit a recommendation letter.
Mhm.
And, talked a little about their leadership skills, and how they've been involved in their community,
Mhm.
through their participation in KHCC. I sped it up and I read the little portions after, some of the other letters are very long, which is great. But for time, we kind of like chunked it a little bit.
Right.
And Karen, you should have, already did send it to you, all of us, so you can also see the longer length for Kojo and Celine,
Mhm.
the letter. For me, I do agree, I think Amani Amani and Janae stand out for me.
Mhm.
Just because, Justice for Families program is real, it's a really something that's close to my heart. And Amani, kind of breaking into, a sport that's just usually referred to for men.
Yeah.
And usually not for.
Right.
And not for people of color. I mean, I'm
yeah.
assuming Amani is someone of color. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yes, Amani is a black girl, there is like a
Right.
National Hockey League article that has her in it as well.
She lives on Claflin. I ran into her a few times. Seeing her coach some of the kids in the neighborhood, which is kind of cool. To watch her in action. So those two for me stand out. Definitely. Just because of the story and the amount of work that they've done.
Yeah.
So Do you agree?
Yeah, I was making checks here for the ones I was like, Amani and Janae
So-
are two that are like automatically.
So
included.
And
now
I
we have
just-
3 more. We have to do 3 more. All 3 of us agree that Amani and Janae.
Yes,
Now we have 3 from 4 folks that we need to think about.
I also go back to Bruce, and let me just say this as a disclaimer on my part. It doesn't really matter that I didn't hear the full recommendations. I will go back and read them because I'm balancing the recommendations and the resumes. And I also think, frankly, if people have been nominated by organizations, they're going to get a glowing recommendation, right? And
Right.
so I've never really seen somebody be nominated for something with it was sort of tepid, the recommendation. So for me personally, it doesn't carry as much weight as the full package of the young person.
Right.
I wish
That makes sense.
we had an opportunity to meet them, but we don't. But again, I definitely am gonna be a strong advocate for Bruce. He's coming from an organization, the other organization nominated 2 young people. But I just think that, hearing about Bruce's his work and his personal background for me is really inspiring. So those are 3 that I would highly support, and then the other 2 I can be convinced to go anyway, because the other 3 young people are wonderful too.
Right.
So what I'm saying is I don't have a strong preference beyond those 3.
I was asking Cesar and his thoughts on Bruce.
Yeah, for me, it's like, I tend not to have, like, these 4, I don't have as strong of a preference for in their totality. I'm trying to remove my bias of, I know Salim's work and what's not in his resume is
Mhm.
in the full letter of, he's also an entrepreneur,
Right.
but. Yeah. Are you also in concurrence with Bruce?
I mean, I definitely think. I do think Bruce should be one of our. Nominees. Do you agree, disagree? Yeah, okay, so Bruce is. Alright, the other, so we have Daya, Kojo, and Celine. I
was like, given that you know Dia, do you wanna?
I mean,
You
yeah,
have to both know one of the people.
I can speak on Daya, definitely, she's been a student that has gone through significant amount of obstacles. Knowing her from middle school to then high school. And I've seen tremendous growth from 8th grade to 9th and 10th grade, having her in class. And for her overcoming a lot of those obstacles definitely led to a lot of social and emotional growth, which then opened the door for her to like be an active participant in the community. So I know that specifically, I'm not gonna share other stuff. But she's definitely overcome a lot of obstacles. And she's such a sweet kid. No, not kid anymore, but young person.
Okay. And what about Celine? Cesar, what would you say on his behalf?
Yeah, no, so for me, I've worked with Celine back in. Way before she became a member of KTC's. Youth programming, and before he was a junior staff, he was originally with SYP, where I worked with him in the pantry, so I've gotten to see like his evolution in leaderships in that and evolutions in his business as what, so he has a community-centered fashion business as well, so being able to see the evolutions in both how do you lead in your field, like in your industry, or starting to lead in your industry as at the time, like a 16-year-old, and simultaneously like doing all these works within KATC, helping youth understand, and a lot of work with Shark Tanks. That for me was like seeing that growth and balance of leaderships and helping other people understand like what they can and can't, like what they can do as well. So for me, it's like, it's not just like, oh, he's doing stuff, it's like showing people and like bringing people to do things also.
Okay. That sounds like we have our other two. They sound great.
Alright. Alright, so these are the 5 folks that we are going to put in, on, it's our nominations to the Yankee Youth Leadership Award. Celine Ochoa,
Morito,
Diary Garcia Baez,
Bruce Sanchez,
Bruce Sanchez,
Janae Schuler.
Janae Schuler, and Amani Doe. And I apologize if I butchered any of these names, the last names. So these will be our 5 nominees. The next step is we submit the names, well, the board office will submit the names on our behalf. And then the Yankees, New York Yankees will be in touch, with the nominees, and then they will get to pick the people who get the stipend of $750 and being invited to, a Bronx Community Board Day at Yankee Stadium. Alright, great.
All right.
Any questions? Karen?
Nope.
Perfect. Alright, so these are our 5 folks. Amazing. Thank y'all for being patient. I know we'll have to do these again at one point for our own youth committee award, so this is good practice
Yeah.
for when we get there in May.
I was about, don't you miss
And maybe
this?
we can refer Kojo to put him in the till, and maybe all of these young people should kind of automatically be transferred to our list for consideration.
Yeah, I'll touch base with Farah on that, cause I
Yeah.
do think they need to still apply, like put in the community board application. Specifically for, you know, our board, award. Alright, next thing. Fiscal year 2027 budget priorities. I'm gonna formulate what we said, from last meeting. And then at our April meeting, we are going to rank them of 1, 2, or 3.
Okay.
And if there's another, if between now and our April meeting, you hear from a community-based organization, or you have a thought about, you know, an expense, or a programmatic expense that we should be, putting before, or putting on our list, definitely bring that or send it over to me via email, so I can put it on our document that we'll share with you all. And then we'll rank them, and then submit them to, I'll submit it on our behalf. David Gelman, our budget chair. And then it'll come to the full board at one point, and then we'll organize them based on preference.
Question,
Yep,
why doesn't youth have, I'm sorry,
why the,
capital?
in the capital?
Yeah.
So, youth doesn't have, so for folks and for people who are gonna watch this later. Our committee typically does not have capital, because our only, to my knowledge, our only building that's publicly owned is actually on parkland. It's owned by the Parks Department. And that's KHCC's building.
Yeah, that's on, yeah, there's part.
And then the other thing is our Marble Hills Center, that's operated by NYCHA, so that will be done by housing. Fort Independence, Cornerstone, is also within a NYCHA development. So that will be if they wanted to repair something in the community center, it will be done through housing. And RNH is privately owned. Riverdale Y is privately owned. Yeah, so typically we don't have capital because none of the buildings that we have are
Okay.
owned or operated by DYCD specifically, like we do more programs because our DYCD operates in schools.
Yeah.
And if there is a capital funding request, that will go to
The education committee?
libraries and cultural affairs
okay.
for a request. So typically youth doesn't have capital because we all operate within another agency space, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So typically we only have expense, and that's great for us because usually the other committees have only capital, like parks. Like I'm on parks, the parks committee, we typically have more capital than expense.
mhm.
Education tends to have more capital because it's about bathrooms and auditoriums and gymnasiums. Not necessarily a lot of expense. So for us, it works out because we can definitely prioritize our requests since we are more programmatic in expense.
So if KCC needed a capital, I'd say we'll go to park.
I remember at one point last year, KCC needed a new roof.
Sure.
And they recently got money, but that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah.
Alright, any other questions about fiscal year 2027 budget priorities? Alright, seeing none. Any old business? No? Karen, any old business? No?
Mm.
Any new business?
I have a
Anyone?
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess this is old slash new business, because we didn't really do it. And I don't think we're gonna get to, we talked about our youth handbook or compendium or whatever we're calling it.
Right.
And so where does that lie? Like, what are we gonna try to work on that this year, or we're gonna hold it over to next year?
I think we can start putting together a little and then build on it. If that makes sense. And yeah, so I think we can put it together and start building, cause we did say like there'll be 3 sections for now.
Mm-hmm.
But then start building out to be more specific.
Okay.
We can start putting
What do
together.
we wanna have, like
Mhm.
by the next meeting, which gives us a month's time, what should we have?
Yeah, so like, I would say if, within those 3 parameters that we've discussed, what was it, education, legal, and what was the other one? I don't remember on the top of my head. If you all have like organizations within the neighborhood that you think we should, feel free to send those over and I can start populating it. And try to have a draft, like, of what it could look like at our next meeting. Does that make sense, Karen?
Yeah. I
Cool.
I have another question too about what role, if any, are we gonna play in the coalition that Senator Jackson and Joanna have convened?
For the solutions.
Solutions, not suspensions.
Sorry, Karen, you kind of froze there for a little
Oh, I
bit.
said, what role, if any, are we going to play in the coalition that Senator Jackson and Joanna have put together, the Solutions Not Suspensions Coalition? I think you're freezing. I'm freezing. Somebody's
For
freezing.
us. Is it our? Can y'all hear us?
I can hear you now. You froze for a minute. Yeah.
I think it's the community board internet. Uh,
Uh-oh, you're frozen again. You're frozen. Hello?
Can y'all hear us?
Couldn't hear you.
Sorry, the internet's unstable here. I think it's the community board office is trying to tell us to wrap it up.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we'll bring the resolution here. I know,
I'll try to get you more specific time. It's like I meet with my boss who did a lot of work with solutions on suspensions for like the past decade.
Mm-hmm.
When I meet with her tomorrow, I'll ask and try to get more specific times, because we also sit on UIC as well, so we sit on a number of coalitions even
Right.
in that space.
I know I've done some work with them through Educational Equity. That's also an organization that's sponsoring and part of the coalition, so I've done some work with them. I don't know, and this is something I'll have to check with Julie and Farah. Because
Mhm.
technically we are a government agent, technically a government entity.
Right.
So I have to see if we can be listed as a community partner, even though we are technically a government entity.
Yeah.
Yes, so the other side of it would see if individuals can join,
Right.
which we will.
No, definitely individuals can join.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know.
I mean, like, as part of our coalition meetings of like, hey, you're an individual.
Right, so I think as an individuals, I would say, yes, you can join.
Mm-hmm.
For the community board 8 to be listed, that's something I'll have to check with
Okay.
Farah, our district manager, or our chair, Julie.
I think, should we even discuss, I mean, do we want to be listed? I'm just drawing it out. I'm just asking these questions. I'm not saying that we do or don't want to. I guess I was just opening up this discussion about the coalition. Is that something that we would want to do?
I guess I'll have to sit on it and reflect. I mean, I'm in favor of the bill. That's, if I didn't already say that, but I guess legally I have to ask Farah and Julie, definitely.
Yeah, it's like first we have the legal question and we have the timing question, because those are
Mhm.
weekly meetings.
Yeah, those are weekly meetings. That's what I was wondering. I mean, do we even have I don't think we should ask Farah if we're not interested and we don't have the capacity, because then we're wasting time.
Right.
So I
And
think the
because
first
they're
question-
weekly, maybe we don't have the capacity. There are only 4 of us.
Right, I think the first question, what I'm trying to get on my side as fast as possible is, how often do they meet, / at what times do they meet? 'Cause
That
a
would
lot
be
of the
great.
folks on that, like a lot of the folks that are there, it's it's your job, you can go to the
Mhm.
meeting.
Right, exactly.
Like,
So
there
can
will be-
we email each other about that or text?
Yeah, we can take this offline.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Cool.
because first of all, we're having so many technical difficulties. If we could wrap the meeting up, I think it would be,
Right, no, of
Good.
course.
yeah.
Any other new business?
No,
Alright, and
Because we don't have quorum, we don't have to adjourn.
yeah, I'm gonna adjourn this meeting at 8:17. Thank you all so much, for being here, participating. Osvaldi, thank you so much. And just thank you to Senator Jackson's office and Senator Jackson and, Alexander Bancourt from DYCD for presenting today. And thank you all so much for your patience. Have a great night and happy St. Patrick's Day.
thank you. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Bye.
Bye.